I want to talk about one of my favorite commanders that I've built, Gitrog Ravenous Ride. I always liked the original Gitrog, but the play pattern always seemed a little complicated to get my head around, so when I saw this new version from Thunder Junction, I was excited as it seemed much simpler to understand. I was not wrong. What the deck wants to do is very simple, but very effective, and I've yet to get bored of sacrificing a big creature to draw a lot of cards and put a lot of lands onto the table. So Gitrog Ravenous Ride is 3 black green for a 6/5 with trample and haste with whenever the Gitrog deals combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice a creature that's saddled at this turn. If you do, draw X cards and then put up to X land cards from your hand onto the battlefield tapped, where X is the sacrifice creature's power. And saddle 1. Saddle is a similar mechanic for crew for vehicles, except the creature with saddle is always a creature, but just receives additional benefits from being saddled. So the game plan is very simple. Play creatures with high power and sacrifice them to draw cards and put lands into play. First step is to get our commander onto the battlefield, and being a 5 drop, we need some ramp in the deck. So we are going all in on land ramp, as we also have a landfall sub-theme, so these cards won't be dead draws late game. So classics like Rampant Growth and Farseed. Also some 2 land ramp spells like Skyshroud Claim and Ranger's Path. So for draw, we are pretty much going to rely on Gitrog's activations to draw us cards. The average power of the creatures in the deck is about 7, so one activation should set us up for more activations, grabbing more lands and more creatures to sacrifice. There are a lot of creatures with high power and low mana cost, but come with a downside. These are perfect for this deck, and we are running a lot of them. Some cannot attack or block unless certain conditions are met, like Lupine Prototype or Relic Golem, or force you to sacrifice or discard, like Rotting Regisaur and Demagoth Titan. Edge of Eternities gave us some interesting cards with the warp mechanic, such as Bygone Colossus and Anti-Causal Vestige, allowing us to warp them out for cheap and then sacrifice to Gitrog to draw a lot of cards. Since our game plan revolves so heavily around our commander, we need to run plenty of pieces of protection. So cards like Tameo Safekeeping and Defend the Rider are great for protecting against targeted removal and board wipes. We also include plenty of Malakir Rebirth effects for protection against targeted removal as well, but also edicts and board wipes. These cards can also pull double duty by reanimating your sack targets to reuse them if you have extra protection in hand or you really want to draw another 18 cards with Yargle and Multani. Since we can get a lot of lands into play each turn, we have some landfall cards to turn all those lands into value. So cards like Avenger of Zendikar and Rampaging Baloths will help us get some bodies on the field. Scoot Swarm is also great, but I personally don't like keeping track of all the copies. Cards like Retreat to Hagra and Ob Nixilis the Fallen will ping your opponents down for each land that comes into play. Here are some additional noteworthy inclusions. Cards that care about total power on the board work well, like Golta, Primal Hunger, and the Skullspore Nexus. The latter is great because you can get it out for cheap and then double the power of either Gitrug or your sacrifice fodder, and you will get a token of equal power to what you sacrifice to keep feeding the Gitrug. Cards like Spelunking and Amulet of Vigor will get your lands in untapped. Since the deck can spit out so many lands and draw so many cards, a big X-Spell can be a reliable finisher after beating everyone down. Exsanguinate and Torment of Hailfire are great uses for all that mana to take out the whole board with one spell. While this is a very fun commander with a very simple and effective loop, it does have some weaknesses. At the end of the day, this is a creature-based deck, so control decks could give it some problems if they get established. Getting hit with a Pacifism or a Darksteel mutation before you draw your enchantment removal can shut this deck down pretty hard. Because our plan involves attacking and sacrificing, we won't have many blockers up at all, if any, so other aggressive creature decks could outpace Gitrog's damage without any significant force multipliers like a Unnatural Growth or a Blackblade Reforged. If you find yourself folding to creatures, maybe try putting some fogs into the deck. Also, because we don't have many creatures, edicts can really hurt us as well. If you find your opponent's making you sacrifice Gitrog too much, maybe try an assault suit, as there isn't too many options to combat that strategy. Although, saying this, if you find yourself in an unfavorable matchup, player removal is always a good option. Gitrog is an aggressive deck and does want to eat your opponents. While maybe not a weakness, but something to keep in mind is this is an aggressive deck that can snowball pretty quickly, leading to having dozens of cards in hands and over 20 lands on the field very quickly. You'll be hitting people in the face with a 6 power commander, drawing a lot of cards and playing a lot of lands. Each of these by themselves can make you the target, so don't expect people to go easy on you if you bring this deck to the table. This deck will not fly under the radar, so if you don't like being the threat or the archenemy, then this deck might not be for you. But if you like being the villain, this deck can be a lot of fun, and once it gets going, it can be hard to stop. I will leave my full deck list below, but I do think there is more room for improvement. So please let me know if you have any suggestions, or if you've played this commander yourself and how you built it. I would love to hear about it. Thank you for watching.